Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Heights Sites, Nathan Heights. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What's going on, everybody? Everybody in the chat. Good to see you guys. We're back, another episode, Unofficial Steelers podcast. And we have some things to talk about. It hasn't been too crazy lately. Daniel and I took the week off from the show last week, so thought we'd do a show this week, heading into the draft as we're in April. Daniel, what's been going on, bro?
Well, I just got the new Justin Fields jersey. It's
Yeah.
the fresh off the presses, number 2. So
Right
what
off
do
the press, ladies and gentlemen. It literally came out today.
Literally came out today. I ordered it. Shipping was amazing. You know, it's one of those things that you can buy something and think about it today, and it comes in before you even know it.
Yeah.
How surprised were you that he ended up with number 2? I thought the reports were number 5.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened on that. That's why I was kind of taking it with a grain of salt, just because he didn't really come out and really say anything about it. And then he put up that kind of Instagram picture of number 2. So, you know, the Steelers don't like to give away number 1. So he's rocking 2. I think he'll look good number 2.
Yeah, I think so too. I think number 2 looks a lot better on a potential starting quarterback than number 5. 5 to me just kind of screams out back.
I agree. I was actually hoping for 11. I thought 11 would look kind of cool.
11, I think he'd look more like a receiver in 11. You know what I mean?
I can see your point. I know 11's kind of a hot receiver number. Not too many quarterbacks wear 11. I think just like with the 1, keeping the 1, bringing another 1. I thought would have been a little bit different, but 2 will be good. 2 will do.
Yeah, I'm not too. I like 2. I think that one was. It looks good. It's a good solid number. I was really hoping he would get the number 1, but obviously the Steelers aren't going to budge on that. Yeah. And Gary Anderson's going to be the only guy to wear number 1, or at least the last person to wear number 1.
I guess. Whatever, I guess, right? So all the other jersey numbers came out. I think it's cool. Patrick Queen's rocking 6. I think that will be a dope jersey for whoever decides to get that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they're finally letting a guy wear a single digit. I know Melvin Ingram did, but still, nonetheless, pretty cool. So, how you guys doing in the chat? Good to see you guys. Afton George, Daredevil, Steeler fan. You know, bro, I got to give a quick shout out. I wasn't going to do this, but I got to give a quick shout out. I got to give a quick shout out to Kelly on Twitter. Kenny Pickett's aunt. I got to give a shout out, bro. I got to give a shout out. You know, she does not let it die. You know, if she does not let it die and let it go out and just move on, that he's no longer here, because he's not here. Apparently the team's going to be under 500. So I got to give a shout out. I love the dedication. I love the passion. I love the hope that he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I love that, Kelly. I really do. So shout out to you. You look like you're about in your 70s, or 60s or so. You're his aunt, apparently. So congratulations. You're a part of the Pickett family. Congratulations that you call yourself a Steeler fan, but apparently they're going to suck because he's not the quarterback anymore. So there you go. Got to give a quick shout out, ladies and gentlemen.
Were you the person that was fighting Kenny Pickett's aunt on Twitter?
No, it wasn't me. No, no. I had to mute her, dude, because I kept seeing it on my timeline, and I'm just tired of seeing it. I'm like, dude, like, get the freak over it.
You know, some people can't handle it, you know.
No, they can't. They can't. You know, your nephew just isn't a good football player, and you got to defend him at all costs. So I don't know what to tell you.
I guess we see where the poutiness comes from. It must run.
It must run in the family.
Yeah.
So I had to give a quick shout out on that one. I appreciate the passion. It's good to see the passion there. And I don't know. Apparently she thinks he's gonna be out Jalen Hurts. So, you know, that's gonna be interesting.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck on that one. So, but yeah, nonetheless, guys. With everything going on, it's been kind of a dry spell the last couple of weeks in the NFL. There's been a couple moves throughout the league that's happened. In terms of Steelers, really not too much that's happened. Bringing in Cordarrelle Patterson, we'll talk about that in a minute. And a couple other, I don't know. They brought in that one defensive lineman. Don't really care, to be honest with you. So it's really been kind of dry for the most part. I think everybody's been waiting on the move for a wide receiver, which has not happened yet. We know the stuff with Tyler Boyd kind of seems like it's pretty at a stall right now. Yeah, as Jared
Did you
almost
hear
said,
the contract proposal for Tyler Boyd?
yeah, it was like what, 10 million, 2 years, something.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think that's it's undervalue, overvalue? What are your thoughts on the 10 million 2-year contract that apparently he's turned down and still waiting for
Right.
somebody else to call?
Well, I don't think, honest thoughts about Tyler Boyd. I don't think he's like really a special player. I think he's a solid number 3 guy on a team that needs some help there. He's been pretty productive, especially early on in his career with the Bengals doing that. I wouldn't overpay for him. It might be a little bit underneath. Like it might be in terms of when you look at the wide receiver market. I think it's a little undervalued there. I think he's a little bit better than that, but at the same time, the market kind of speaks for itself. So it's just he's not the only player that's in a situation like that. Justin Simmons is still holding out, hasn't gotten a contract either yet, and he's one of the better safeties in the league. To be honest with you, Daniel, I'm completely okay moving on from Tyler Boyd.
Good deal. Yeah, me too, man. I wasn't a big fan. Well, it's not so much I wasn't a big fan. I would have welcomed the kid. You know what I mean? I call him a kid because he's, he's a lot younger than I am. But at the end of the day, I think he had remember when I said last time 700 yards and X amount of receptions, and I thought that was Ayuk. No, I was referring to Tyler Boyd. That was what his numbers were. He had 700 and some odd yards, and I don't see the value there of paying a guy that you're probably looking at as your wide receiver 3 slot guy.
Yeah,
that amount of money at that point.
Yeah.
You still have other guys. You've signed other guys already. Van Jefferson. You have Quinn or what I can't remember his last name.
Quez Watkins.
Watkins, there we go. And you got some pieces here and there, and I assume the Steelers are probably going to acquire a wide receiver in the draft at some point as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to be the wide receiver 1. I think George Pickens is probably going to go into this year as the wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Do you think? What do you think about that? Deontay Johnson was the wide receiver 1 previously, and he had route running ability, and to me, he fit that. That prototype of the Antonio Brown, that's Antonio Holmes, the guy that's going to get open, not super tall, not lengthy, but has great route running ability. What do you think about George Pickens in that position?
I'm all right with it. He's going to enter his 3rd year. A lot of times these guys that are drafted with a projection to be a high-end wide receiver, I think usually come around, unless you're a really special talent, obviously. It usually takes a few years, really kind of once you hit that year 3, you're ready to transition in that wide receiver 1 step. Like if you've been productive and putting up those type of numbers and everything, I think George Pickens is I think he's ready for that. The only thing with him, I think everybody will agree on, is his maturity level, is him being able to kind of start to transition and becoming a leader in a kind of way. And I think especially with the quarterbacks on the roster, he should be excited. Not saying that the Steelers have elite company in their quarterback room, but they have guys that are going to push the ball down the field now. Whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's Justin Fields, they have two guys that are going to push the ball down the field now. So with George Pickens, he should be excited. He should be thrilled about it. I'm completely fine with him starting to enter, being the number 1 guy in that territory. I think especially with what he did last year, he should kind of be treated in that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
With the Deontay trade, I understand people were upset about it. I think at the same time, there's different factors that go into it. They weren't going to pay him. They weren't going to give him an extension. He's had problems in the locker room. He's had problems with other teammates. And I think too, I honestly do think they value Pickens a lot. And they just want a different, I don't really know what I want to say, like how I really want to describe it, but they want a different kind of lead, a different set of mind in the locker room than what Deontay Johnson was giving them. Because Deontay Johnson's 28 now, and he hasn't really quite grown up into being a leader in the locker room. And so see you later. So the Steelers weren't going to unload him just to do it. They still got a plan. You got a heavy wide receiver draft. They can still make a trade. Just because that nothing's happened yet doesn't mean that a trade's not going to happen. I'm still holding out hope that they do make a trade. I think that's possible. They got 2 third-round picks now via the Kenny Pickett trade, and I think that's possible that they can pull something off, especially with, as you've seen in the trade market this offseason, some of these guys haven't been going for a haul or anything. And I think in terms of their hope to get a wide receiver, that could help their case. So just because nothing's happened doesn't mean talks aren't happening every day, or at least during the week. Like that doesn't mean that's not happening. So I think that there's a level of, I'm not going to say expectation, but a level of possibility that they can make a trade. Heck, they could do a draft day trade. It's exactly what happened with A.J. Brown last year. He got traded during the draft, right? Teams realize, like you look at a team like the Niners, like, okay, they're coming out saying they want to extend Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk doesn't really want to sign a contract with them right now, for example. And the Niners comes to the point where it's draft. Okay, hey, this is a heavy wide receiver draft, right? You're kind of playing cat and mouse with other teams. And that's what organizations do. Steelers are probably letting the price drop a little bit. And why not, right? Like when it comes to a point like, okay, you know what? We got to make a decision. It's just like with the Bears. You know, that they were playing a lot of cat and mouse with the Fields trade. And it came to that point, hey, teams have started to move on. We have a couple here. We got to make a decision. And that's definitely something that could happen come the draft, during the draft, before the draft, a couple days before the draft. It's hard to say. So I think I'm still holding out hope that there'll be a thing there. But in terms of like with Pickens, yeah, I'm okay with that. I think they got a plan there. I'm not worried about it.
So you bring up the possibility of a trade for a wide receiver, and I think that that's a huge possibility as well. You know, the Steelers have been rumored with Brandon Ayuk that you know there's some interest there. You know, there's been some tweets going back and forth about comparing looks between the player and the coach, So that sparked a lot of interest. You know, we spoke about that not too long ago. And you laughed at me when I said it'd probably be maybe a 3rd round and another pick next year, something like that. Stephon Diggs goes for a 2nd next year.
Right.
Where do you see the wide receiver draft, I guess, trade value going after that, after Stephon Diggs' trade? Do you think that, you know, perhaps the value of the wide receivers is starting to go down a little bit?
I think in the sense of, well, the wide receivers make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest, it's the most that they've ever made in any type of period in the NFL. I think teams get to a point where, especially as these guys have had multiple contracts, especially as these guys are starting to age a little bit, they don't want to carry on the entire contract. Like, and I'm talking about like a top wide receiver, right? I'm not talking about guys that are number 2s, number 3s that get moved. Like, I'm talking about some of these number 1s that have been traded over the last 3 years. And you look at a team like the Texans, they're not paying Diggs' entire contract. So I think when it gets to the point with some of these top wide receivers, sometimes they're a headache, sometimes the contract's too big. And it gets to the point where either if it's a production level going down, like I said, if some of these guys are getting older, like Diggs is at 30, which I'm not saying is old, but you know, he's not in that prime 20 range either anymore. And with that type of situation, I think it does cause some of these trades to go down because you have those type of factors in play, and teams don't want to budge on the entire whatever like with the Bills, for example. Okay, who knows what the heck they're asking for the Texans? But you have a team like the Texans, there's probably conversations going on, but it's like, hey, okay, we'll take Diggs off your shoulders. We're going to give you a 2nd round pick. We're not going to give you a 1st round pick. This guy's 30. This guy comes with baggage. This guy's had a big contract. We don't want to take on the big contract. Bills are at a point, they probably just wanted to get him off the books just because he's too much of a head case. But even with some of these other top wide receivers, you look at Tyreek Hill, you're probably going to look at T. Higgins coming up. Like, they're not, I personally don't think they're getting this big, like these teams aren't getting this big return back, because you just look how overvalued a lot of these guys are. And a lot of these wide receivers that aren't like these tier 1 guys are still getting a buttload of freaking money. And it's like, hey, look at the wide receiver market. All these guys are getting paid. it's at that point where these teams, there's just too overvalue, and teams look at that and say, we're going to need the price to drop. And then you play cat and mouse, and then teams get to that point and they have to make a decision. And I think that's when you look at the Bills, it could be the situation with the Niners. And if they decide to move off Brandon Ayuk, AJ Brown with the Titans don't want to offer him a contract either. So it's in those type of situations of where so many wide receivers are getting big paid money, and it's like, okay, hey, you don't want to make a deal, we're going to go give money somewhere else. And then teams, it comes to the point they don't really have much of a choice. At least that's how I've been viewing it the last few years, because it's been these guys are getting paid as much as they've ever gotten paid, these wide receivers. So, and I think too, a lot of teams realize just how offense is, like they realize and recognize some guys are replaceable as well. So teams aren't going to sell themselves out for a top wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. You see, for me, I think that when it comes to a player and the trade and the value, I think that a big component is going to be the price tag that comes along with it.
Mm.
You know, if you're going to be paying the contract and you're taking the players up the hands of the team who can't re-sign, or the player is refusing to re-sign, that puts that team in a pretty bad situation. So that's when some of these trades are more favorable. Now, when it comes to Stephon Diggs, I believe the last 4 years, he has had over 1,000 yards receiving. And last year, I think he had over double the targets than any other receiver or tight end or anybody in the Buffalo Bills offense. So they literally traded their entire, half of their offense, other half being Josh Allen there, away. And they took a huge amount of the dead cap or dead money. I think they're going to pay him $30-something million this year, regardless.
Yeah, they're
to
taking
get away
on
from him.
that.
Now, Texans, they don't have to take on much of it. They gave up a bigger price tag. Now, I do think that they probably could have acquired him for cheaper than a second round in the future if they took on some of that money. You know what I mean? But they didn't want to, obviously, because I don't know if they intend on signing him for a long term. They voided the rest of his contract after this year, so he's going to be a free agent after this season.
Yeah, it's an easy move off. It's really just a no risk move, to be honest, because he's a migraine, but it's like they have a young team. They rebuilt their team for 3 years. Now they're in a spot. They got young talent. They can go spend some money a little bit, and now it's kind of a high reward, low risk type thing.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, a second round pick on a 1 year rental is still quite a bit, regardless.
Second round pick, but Diggs is still a top 5 guy, so you got to give a little bit to get. And maybe if they wait a little bit more, maybe they could have. Who knows how the conversations were? But yeah, I think that's really a big focal point, as into like sometimes why these teams, like you would think like these wide receivers on the market, and you end up seeing the package and you're like, dang, like Steelers could have did that. But honestly, I'm glad they didn't get Diggs. I don't think they need him.
Could you imagine?
I mean, hey, it'd be exciting. It'd be sexy to look at, but I think he's a little bit of a migraine.
Not on the sideline if the team is losing. Him and Pickens throwing things at each other.
Right.
I don't know. That's a good sight, but talent there. Yeah, obviously he's there. I think the trade is. I think Houston may have won on this one for now. We'll see who ends up, or what the Buffalo Bills end up doing with that.
The Bills too have lost a lot of guys. They've lost a lot of guys this offseason. And some of that is probably cap related. Some of it's just ready to move on. I'm sure they probably got a plan to replace some of that, but you can't keep everybody.
No, you can't. So Cordell Patterson got number 84. He put posted on Twitter not too long ago, something about, should I get to 84, 10, this number, that number. Antonio Brown responded, said that this is the only 84 you'll see. Patterson ends up taking up on that offer. What do you think about him wearing 84?
I love it, dude. I think it's great. They haven't had an 84 since AB. AB's old news. I think it'll be cool. I like the Patterson signing itself. But him in 84, it's different because he's like he's not a wideout. So it's going to be kind of different and fun. Like if he's ever in the backfield at all, kind of seeing 84 come out of the back. Yeah, he's going to obviously probably be their primary returner, but finally actually kind of nice. Somebody in the room is wearing 84. And honestly too, Like, I know Patterson's not like a wide receiver. He can receive the ball as a halfback. He's not a wide receiver, but like, the Steelers haven't really had anybody when you look at their wide receivers or anybody catching the ball other than a tight end that's like been in the 80s for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it'll be kind of fun. Yeah, Z says not scared. How's that pass rush, Z? Let me know. How's that pass rush?
Well, I think Patterson's going to primarily play on the kickoff game.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure they're going to have some sort of package out there for him. But when he comes in on the offense, he's primarily a running back. So it's a little bit interesting when it comes to those things. Hey, pull up this that I'm sharing real quick. These are the numbers. So Justin Fields got number 2. Russell Wilson got 3. Kyle Allen got 4. Bill Burr got 5. I mean, Cameron Johnston, number 5. Patrick Queen, 6. As I'm going through this, one thing that I noticed right off the bat is Russell Wilson wearing the black shadow stuff under the eyes for a picture.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know, dude. Maybe he got his picture outside. I don't know. The face seems a little bright.
Yeah. Well, this obviously is an older picture because I think he's faded his hair or buzz cut it since.
Yeah.
But he's not the only one. Dante Jackson did the same thing, but just on the one eye.
Right.
Just because the glare.
Yeah.
And number 26 for Dante Jackson.
Yeah, I was expecting that. I like Elliott 25. He reminds me a little bit of Ryan Clark.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm down with him at 25. Does that mean Eric Rowe's gone?
I do think that might mean Eric Rowe's gone, or at least for now.
At least for now. Yeah, I think my favorite's Queen in 6, to be honest with you, but looks pretty good. Looks pretty good to me. Real quick, Jeremiah. Yes, Fields will be wearing 2, Jeremiah. Black and gold, speaking of the numbers, that number needed resurrected. Antonio Brown, Burfict needs to fade out. Yeah, the number did kind of need resurrected a little bit, to be honest.
How many touchdowns do you think Cordell Patterson takes to the house on kickoffs this year?
Well, with these new kickoff rules, might be a couple, maybe.
Right.
Because they changed the kickoff rules at least for this season, and then they're going to go back next year and examine it. Which it's going to feel, obviously it's going to look very different. It's going to feel very weird. We'll eventually get used to it. But they obviously wanted to, yes, I understand they wanted to avoid some of the injury problems that come out of a kickoff, but at the same time, they also wanted to bring some type of level of excitement and productive kickoff returns back. Mm-hmm. And because let's be honest, like the kickoff returns over the last select amount of years have been, you want me to take this off or keep it on?
Oh, you can, whichever one. Yeah.
Okay.
You can take it off.
I'll just take it off. But like the kickoff has been pretty non-existent for a little while. And I know the NFL wants to bring that back. It's going to feel weird to me. I honestly think sometimes things don't need changed. That's always kind of been the kickoff, but I'm open to it. It might be exciting. It reminds me a little bit, not the same way, but it reminds me a little bit of how baseball implemented a pitch clock into their pitchers routine, and honestly even bringing the DH to the National League, and it honestly does make the game better. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it could be a good year for Patterson. Being advised that he stays healthy. Yeah. And if he runs back a couple of them just because of these new rules or it's something of that nature, I mean, he's really going to pad those stats for his potential Hall of Fame career as a returner. And
he's been a great returner through his career. I'll give him that. And he was a former first-round pick. He was drafted as a wide receiver, didn't pan out in Minnesota, and then just kind of really changed to like a hybrid running back wide receiver for a little bit there, returner, and then just kind of a receiving back and returner. So
yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. But it also begs the question, man. You have all these receivers that they're picking up or possibly picking up. Tyler Boyd has been given a contract offer. Brandon Ayuk is somebody that the Steelers have been interested in. Where does that leave Calvin Austin at for you?
Right. Yeah. It's interesting with him because now you're having Patterson, who's probably going to win that return battle and be that guy. You make a move for wide receiver. You draft a wide receiver. Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins is a very fast guy. This is a big year for him, dude. This is a big offseason, big camp for him. And I would not be surprised if, let's say, it's just not enough meat on the bone if he gets cut. I would not be surprised. I really wouldn't. Am I going to say that's going to happen? No, but you have some competition there in terms of that 3, 4, 5 spot, and as a returner, so it's going to be big for him.
You know, he Calvin Austin spent his first year on the IR. Last year, he had a couple big plays here and there. I think he could have had more if he had a quarterback that could get him the ball better. However, he did have a big play or two here or there. You know, I think he might be a guy that, because he hasn't really done much, even though he has that blazing speed, he's vertically challenged. And I just think that maybe perhaps he's a guy that maybe the Steelers can stash on the practice squad.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know, because I think his biggest asset, in my opinion, is punt return. Now, I don't think Cordell Patterson is going to be doing a lot of punt returning. I think he's probably going to be primarily the kickoff. But Watkins, he's a guy that I think can do the. He's a guy that's also can get on the field offensively. I mean, you already have one position for the kickoff return where you have a guy that is specifically that position on special teams. Are you going to acquire two of those guys? One that's, specifically only punt returns and one that's kickoff return only? I don't think so. I think they have to also bring another aspect of their game to the game. And you're right. This is going to be a big year for Calvin Austin. This preseason, in my opinion, is going to be huge for him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how he's going to, fit with a quarterback who's also vertically challenged. Are they going to be able to see each other?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that might be the reason why they might be moving away.
You make some good points. I think some people forget about Calvin Austin too, in the mix of everything. When we look at really the Steelers' needs going in the draft, and who knows, they could pull out a trade or a signing before, but based off what we know now, you look at center, you look at right tackle, you look at wide receiver, and let's look at corner. 4 of those. Which ones you see them tackling right away in the draft?
Run that by me again. What are the positions?
Wide receiver, corner, center, right tackle. Which 2 of those do you see them tackling right away?
They're going to hit tackle first, and then I think they're probably going to go center.
Okay.
Everything tells me they're going tackle first.
Okay. They like the Amarius Mims guy from Georgia a lot. One guy whose name has been making traction is Nate Wiggins, the corner from Clemson. They sent out a whole buttload of people to their pro day, and some people think he's the best corner in the draft. He's probably going to go in the first round. But it's interesting conversation because if they decide not to trade for a wide receiver, before the draft, you have a loaded wide receiver class. So if they're going to sit at 20, your top 3 are going to be off the board. But you're going to have guys that are worthy of being taken in the first round at that point. You're going to have a stack load of guys in the second round. And I could name everybody, but I don't know how many people everybody in the chat doesn't know, so it's okay. And maybe it's possible they take 2 wide receivers. I really don't know. But that's fascinating. The Jackson Powers Johnson talk is fascinating because they did not go to Oregon's pro day, but Pat Meyer was there, so they still had eyes out there. Mm-hmm. And honestly, Daniel, I feel like that the pick 20 move is honestly unpredictable to me right now. Like, it's okay to, like, you make your predictions or you're pretty confident that they're gonna take whoever, but I think with just the amount of guys that could be there at 20 is very fascinating to me. I think there's a couple wide receivers there worthy being at 20. I think you have your center, you have your tackle and Mims if you want to go that route, or you have a couple corners. So I think it's very fascinating. And unless they make a move or a trade before then, I think it's unpredictable right now for me.
Now I think they're going for Fuaga. I'll tell you which player they're going for. I'm going to predict that guy. I think they're going to move up to get him too. I think that Khan moved up last year to get the tackle of each
He
choice.
could be there at 20. He might go a little bit earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, let's break it down. There's probably going to be a run on quarterbacks right away. You're probably looking at a few receivers that are going to go right away as well, and then that's when you're going to be in that predicament where tackles and cornerbacks can start to fall off. Now, if there's a huge run on tackles and the Steelers don't have a trading partner, then I can see them, trying to move up also to get a corner. But I really do think they like what they have in their room. As far as Dante Jackson, that was a guy that, from what I understand, the Steelers have been interested in him since he was coming out of LSU. They were there when he was up for a contract. They were there with the trade last year, and they finally got him, traded this year.
Yeah. So
I think they like what they got there. I do think it's going to be either Fuaga or it's going to be Mims in that first round. Preferably for me, I'd prefer Fuaga. Apparently, he's close also with Sayamalu. They have a close relationship.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so they know each other.
Yeah. Hey, if they want to go one of those guys, I'm down. Honestly, I'm down. Like I honestly feel like this year, like there's times I complain with their picks. Like when we took Edmonds, I was like, who? Like Edmonds, right? Like a couple other guys that we've taken. Z, we appreciate you tuning in. Enjoy back to work and enjoy Trevor. That's all I'm gonna say.
When the Steelers selected Terrell Edmonds, I texted my father, my brothers. I was like,
yeah.
I think they thought that that Tremaine Edmonds was still on the board when they saw T. Edmonds.
They took the wrong dude.
They took the wrong guy.
They took the wrong guy. Yeah, like I feel like this year I won't be disappointed with whatever direction they go because I'm all for one of those tackles. There's a lot of them. You got the guy from Penn State whose name I can't pronounce. You got Mims. You got Fuaga. Joe Alt from Notre Dame is going to go in the top 10 easily. So you got 4 that could be at your disposal at 20. You got 4. And then at wide receiver, your top 3 are going to go, but you're going to have Brian Thomas from LSU that's going to be there. Adonai Mitchell's going to be there from Texas. There's a couple other names that could maybe come and go later in the first. Don't know. You have your center. There's a couple good corners. So I feel like I would personally be okay with whatever direction, but that's what makes it exciting when you have a draft where it's really unpredictable like this. Like even if you feel pretty confident they're going to go in a direction, like there's still different avenues that could happen, especially if they make a move for somebody. And then there's some years where you know what they're going to do. 100%, you know what they're going to do. Like Najee Harris, I think everybody knew pretty much that they were going to take him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like the unpredictability factor, and I'm okay with whatever direction they go. But that's going to be fun. Real quick, Vegas says, bring back Pat Pete. How about Cam Sutton? What do you think about Cameron Sutton coming back?
Well, he's got that whole situation going on that he was just recently arrested for. I know it's been his charges have been dropped from felony assault to a misdemeanor assault. So he's probably going to end up getting, some sort of suspension, but he's probably not going to lose his career. He's probably going to be on the cheaper end. He didn't have the best year last year. And although that may have been the case, if he were to find his way back onto the Steelers roster, it'd be at a much reduced salary. And I think that the Steelers would probably utilize him more in the slot position because, well, that's probably the one position that hasn't been addressed yet. Shannon Sullivan was the slot cornerback last season. And, he was serviceable, I guess. I don't think he really killed the Steelers in any game, so to speak, but he wasn't anything to, write home about. So I do think that there's that chance. I don't know if optically it looks good. And, the Steelers have had their, issues by picking up players that have certain baggage, whether it be Michael Vick or even keeping Ben Roethlisberger after his issues.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There was the punter, what's his name? The punter god or whatever they called him.
Marquette King?
No. The Chiefs. Mark Gurley.
Yeah.
Aziz,
Matt
Ariza.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a guy that the Steelers can go out and pick up as a punter because, well, he's probably not going to be very expensive because of his accusations. And those were completely found to be untrue. Yeah. It's one thing to, somebody to say, all right, never mind, I got paid. And another thing to find out that this guy was completely somewhere else. And there's video of him somewhere else when the accuser alleged that he was committing these crimes.
Right.
So, when you have those type of things, I felt that in that scenario, you could have brought him in. It was a position of need. And I felt that he was probably the best player out there. And, I, for that position, and yet the Steelers didn't even bring him in or talk to him. And I think that the optics had a big part of that.
Yeah. Well, my bad. No, you make some good points there. It's definitely, even from that aspect too, like some of these guys that do end up having some off the field stuff, even if it's stuff that they're innocent for or charges get dropped or anything like that. There's still some things in place. Like you said with Sutton, you make a good point where he could maybe face a suspension, maybe like a 2-game suspension or something like that. He would be on the cheaper option as well. They need some help there. I'm not totally against it. If they decide to bring him back, you can give him a 1-year deal for freaking cheap. So it's possible. But Daniel makes some good points as well on that, especially some guys that have found themselves kind of in and out with some stuff off the field. So that's a good question. I even think too, like, I don't know, dude. I feel like that there's still going to be like a signing eventually that isn't going to like move the needle, but I think is going to be necessary, whether that's somebody on the line, if that's somebody in the secondary, maybe it's another linebacker. I feel like that there's something else out there they're going to do before the draft. And aside from maybe possibly trading for wide receiver, I think that's possible. I'm still, like I said, I'm still holding out hope they make a move for Brandon Ayuk. I think that's still possible. I think that's still on the table. Just because nothing's happened doesn't mean they're not talking. Stephon Diggs just got traded. So it's definitely possible. Yeah, so we'll see. But the thing is, like, how confident are you? How Vegas says draft day trade for the Tomlin lookalike wide receiver. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Happened with AJ Brown last year, so it's possible. How confident are you, Daniel, if they pass on a center in the first round of the center position going into next year? Depending if they take one in the second round, if they decide to maybe bring somebody for cheap on the market as a Band-Aid again. I don't know. How confident are you about the spot?
About which spot again?
Center. So, like, if they decide to avoid a center in the first round and they decide to get one in the second or third round, maybe bring one for cheap off the market, how do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think that the center position is probably as, I don't know, put on that pedestal, as high of a pedestal as the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base are doing so, just because we've had some of the worst center play in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I do think, though, however, that it is a position of need, and I think the Steelers are going to, acquire that position. I do think that they're going to acquire it in the draft. I'm not too concerned, about that. I think it's going to be acquired in the second round, and I think there's going to be at least a couple of centers still available. Zach Frazier is probably going to be a guy that I think that's going to be around closer to 51. They may need to move up to get him. I'm not sure. He had a leg injury. He did participate in the combine and in his pro day, but he suffered because of that leg injury. And I think there's a lot of people that like the fact that he went out there and toughed it out.
Yeah.
But maybe perhaps that does take a little bit of a hit on his draft stock, and maybe perhaps the Steelers can get him at 51.
Yeah.
Where are you at on that? As far as
yeah.
And as far as free agency and not going out and getting one, I would be more concerned if they got one now, and that's outside of the draft, because then that whoever they get now is just the leftover, so to speak.
Right. No, I hear you. We all knew center needed to be a position for them to really be aggressive about, especially with how bad it's been. But there's some guys out there, if they decide to pass on Oregon center. So I'm kind of on the boat with you. If you can go get a guy you're confident about in the second round, I'm okay with that. You can go out, get a guy as well for some depth. Maybe somebody has been in the league for a little bit, to kind of be with him, be a guy to kind of be that. I kind of like using the word Band-Aid, but like a guy that's a formidable depth piece behind him. You know, like you're not going to throw Herbig or somebody like that behind him who's not really a center.
Right. Hey, give me a sec, man. I got my dogs are barking real quick. Let me go.
No, you're good.
Put them down. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, you're good. Well, guys, as Daniel takes a quick breather real quick, to go handle his dog, I'm kind of just like torn because I could even see the Steelers doing something of where they got 2 third-round picks, right? I could easily see them trading back up in the second round. They like to trade up. They like to trade up in the drafts. They like to trade back into middle rounds. I could see them trading back in the second round or trading back into the second round. Yeah, they have their second round pick. They got 2 third-round picks. You use one of those to move back up in the second round. Maybe you grab a wide receiver there too. I don't really know. The thing with the wide receiver class is that it's very heavy, but we all know out of, let's say, 8 of these guys, how many of them are actually going to turn out? You see it every year. You can look at that one big receiver class where Justin Jefferson was in and all those guys. Jalen Reagor was taken before him by the Eagles, and he was a failure. Yeah,
no, you're right. I mean, the draft is going to be something that it's always a gamble, you know, regardless of the position, the round. Yep. Now, obviously, the closer, you know, to the top of the round that you are, the more likely that the player that you're acquiring is going to be as advertised.
Right.
It's less likely, you know, later on in the rounds that teams are getting things wrong, but those things do happen. But yeah, man, I think I would like, dude, if the Steelers ended up with like, you know, just imagine this, you know, Brad Jones on the left side, seeing Malu, and then probably Frazier, and then you have Daniels, and then Fuaga on the right side.
It'd be cool.
I mean, you be down. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. I mean, they both have 1,000-yard rushing. Guarantee it. Yeah. Guarantee it. If that ended up being the case.
Yeah. No, it definitely is actually fun to actually think about. Yeah. I'm not concerned at all about their wide receiver group. I don't think anybody should be concerned about it. They're going to figure it out. They're going to make it work. They're one of the best teams in the league when it comes to developing their wide receiver room. Not worried about it. I think more so it just comes to them polishing out their offensive line. And I would like to see them bring in somebody else in their secondary, because aside from Porter, aside from Dante Jackson, you know, you have Corey Trice coming back, but it's thin. It's thin there. And are you going to take a corner within your first 3 picks? Or are you going to try to? I would like to see them bring another guy in from the outside and then invest in another guy through the draft. And then you have those 2, Dante, Porter. You also have Corey Trice coming back. So those are some things I personally have more concern with corner than I do at wide receiver position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they do there.
Yeah. I mean, I see that. You know, I think that when it comes to the defensive side, I don't know. I like the secondary, man. I think we need a slot corner, and I think we can find one of those guys like in the 4th round, you know, somewhere around there, or even in free agency. Last year, the Steelers ended up signing Shannon Sullivan during the draft. Right. You know, I think they had a target there for the slot cornerback position, and that guy got drafted probably, and they went out and called Shannon and said, "Hey, we want you." So, you know, that position could be acquired. I think that if there's a position on the defense for me that's probably concerning, might be defensive line. You know, Larry Ogunjobi has been injury prone his entire tenure with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Granted, he's made his way onto the field. He's still, you know, not been in practice, and you can clearly see that he's not been 100%. And Cam Hayward, he's getting up there in age, and he was dealing with injuries as well.
Yeah.
The defensive line is probably the biggest concern for me on the defensive side.
Yeah, that's fair. I can agree with that, to be honest. Yeah, defensive line too. What do you do there? I honestly don't see them doing that early in the draft. Maybe, I don't know, because they signed that Dean Lowry guy. They still have Leal, Ogunjobi, Benton, Cam. If you can add another beefer in there.
Yeah, but Liao, as a 3rd-round pick in his 2nd year, wasn't even getting dressed.
Right.
He's probably not going to make the team this year.
No.
You know, and Loudermilk, he's not been the greatest either.
Young.
You know what I mean? So I don't think the Steelers have the depth there. Martavius Adams, he's been a plus when he's gone in there.
They re-signed him.
They did re-sign him, but I think, you know, he would be a solid depth piece for me. Not so much the guy you expect to handle the load. Now, I know that they're probably looking at Larry Ogunjobi and Cam Hayward for the most part in that role, but this is a 17-game season. That's a long season, and guys at that age and, you know, already having some injuries, you know, the season gets cold towards the end. It's a risky move.
Yeah.
Now, if the offense can hold on to the ball, you know, a lot longer than they did in the last couple of years, you know, that'll probably have a positive benefit when it comes to the health of the defense.
Right.
So, you know, it's going to be an interesting to see. And I think that if the Steelers can beef up that offensive line a little bit more and possess that ball, then it's definitely going to help out this aging defense. And maybe perhaps they don't have to address the defensive line,
right,
you know, so early in the draft this year.
Right. No, that's good. And another thing too about the secondary, I'm glad that KZ's going back to that utility guy, because I think he thrives a lot more in that type of role than he did as a strong safety or whatever. So having him there as that third piece with Minka, Deshaun Elliott, you can kind of let KZ do his thing back there. I think he's more effective in that type of way. I don't know. Maybe they have him play a little bit of slot. He's done it.
Yeah,
he did it with the Falcons. He did it with the Cowboys.
Yeah,
wherever the hell he was after the Falcons.
Didn't he have a leg injury though?
He might have been. Sometimes I get him and Keanu Neal mixed, but I know KZ was with the Falcons. I want to say he was with the Cowboys at some point.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he didn't. I thought he had some sort of leg injury, which is why he moved to safety, because he didn't have the speed there like he used to. But I could be thinking of the wrong player.
Let me see real quick. That's kind of bothering me. He was with after the Falcons.
He had the fractured forearm, but that's what the Steelers. I want to know before that.
Yeah, he was with Dallas for a year and then came here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see his injury history here. Gotta be here somewhere.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it says he had a thigh. Man, nothing crazy. I'm probably thinking of the wrong guy. Either way, I mean, you know, he's a smaller guy. He hits hard. I like him there. I mean, I think he'll be pretty good. I like Elliott.
It's possible maybe if they decide to do it, like if there's really nobody that they go after.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see who else is still on the market real quick in terms of like another corner they could bring in. That would like make sense.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let's see who's still out there. What about Xavier Howard?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, he's damaged goods. Stephon Gilmore, anybody for a year?
I mean, I think we need to get faster and younger.
I agree.
You know,
I mean, I don't know. It's not really speaking too much to me out here.
Nah, man, I think they're gonna have to get somebody in the draft. Now,
I agree.
You know, Patrick Peterson, I know his name was thrown out there earlier as a potential slot guy. I hope not. You know, nothing against him or anything like that. I just don't. You know, you have to have the speed. Yeah, especially in the inside there, you're going up against, you know, some of the faster, shiftier guys in the slot now.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if Patrick Peterson's the guy that I want there. You know, the Steelers have been looking for the replacement for Mike Hilton since he left.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, Hilton was what? Undrafted?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they can find another diamond in the rough.
Well, it's a long off season. I think it's too long, personally, in my opinion. I don't think these guys need 7 months to get ready to get back on the football field. That's just my opinion. I think it's too long of an off season, but it's a long one. Draft is going to be very intriguing. Very excited about it. Still could pull out a move before the draft. Still possible they could pull out a move for wide receiver going into the draft. That is possible. Even if not, come the summertime, there's still going to be guys out there. So I think really if you can just kind of polish up the line a little bit through your draft, if you could pull out a move for wide receiver somewhere, okay. How many plays do you think Fields will get on the offense as a backup quarterback? Maybe will they use him like a hybrid version of Cordell to get his talents on the field? What do you think, Daniel? You think they're going to try to get him out there, or you think they're just going to try to have him sit as much as you can and learn?
I do think there's going to be a package for him. It's probably not going to be Cordell Stewart type of package where he's a receiver. Maybe he'll line up as a wildcat option. But even at that, I think his ability to throw the ball will make defenses have to cover both, him potentially running and throwing.
Right.
I do think that is going to probably be a huge component of what we see this upcoming year with Justin Fields. But as far as being the next Slash and seeing him as a receiver and running back or Russell Wilson and himself out there on the field at the same time, I mean, even at that's possible, but I think Russ is probably going to be the one lining up as the receiver at that point. Justin Fields under center in a wild card type of situation.
Right.
Unless Russ gets injured or just kind of falls flat, I don't think we're going to see Justin Fields outside of those wildcat type plays.
I agree. And I'm kind of I feel like I want to see them both. I want to see Russ out there. I want to see Fields out there, man, because Russ is in a different situation now. He's not in his prime. He's not the same guy. We all know that. But it was a crappy situation in Denver, especially when Sean Payton came in. It was a mess. Did he have a better year under him? Yeah, he did. But even with Justin Fields too, I want to see him too. I think that there's a lot of excitement. I think that he's had a lot of electrifying moments. I like upside that's there. He needs to clean up certain aspects of his game. And I think him coming here and resetting, learning is good. He's more stable. So it's I want to see both, but I know I'm not going to be able to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And KZ did have a major injury. He had a Achilles tendon injury back in 2020. I knew something happened with his legs.
So there you go. Daniel knew something happened.
I knew something happened. Yeah. I'm barely wrong that big, that off.
Right. All right. Well, before we kind of wrap up the show, Daniel, how do you kind of feel with the team now compared to last year? It's a pretty new team. It feels new. It feels refreshed. Going into last year, obviously we knew the quarterback room. We had an offensive line that was suspect. We had Matt Canada still. We had a defense that added a couple guys to the draft, and Porter and Benton. You had a new linebacking group. But as we saw the season play out, it wasn't good enough. There wasn't enough meat there. Obviously, they went through a lot of injuries, just like every other team in the league did. Quarterback was probably the biggest thing that held the team back, to be honest. This year, complete new quarterback room. They're adding to their line a little bit more. We'll see what they do at wide receiver. They added more to their defense. I don't want to say they revamped their defense, but adding Elliott, adding Queen there as two new guys as starters is good. They're obviously going to add some more depth through the draft too. How do you feel with kind of where they sit right now, even compared to a year ago?
And compared to a year ago, I think I'm more excited going into this season. Last year, I didn't get overly excited until around preseason when we saw, Kenny Pickett look like he was going to be the next Joe Namath or something. And
yeah.
That quickly went down the drain. But at this point, before preseason, before the draft last year, last year's draft was unbelievable. I think that also, catapulted my my thoughts as far as the possibilities of this team moving forward.
Right.
And so right now, today, pre-draft, after free agency, I'm probably a lot better in a lot better position. I think I'm more confident in this team. I don't know how it's going to translate on the field yet. This team is getting together. They're putting the right pieces together. I just hope they can gel in time. The schedule is very daunting. This year it's not an easy schedule like last year. This year you're going to play the likes of the Eagles, the Cowgirls, the Chiefs are coming in, or the Swifts. Those teams are going to be teams that the Steelers are going to play, and it's not going to be as easy as it was last year. And last year the Steelers barely got in. So I do think that if the Steelers had last year's schedule, I would have thought that this is probably a 12 to 13 win team easily. But we'll see how the draft goes here. I think if the Steelers end up with a draft similar to the one that they got last year, and this team could be really, really, really humming. I mean, you end up picking up a tackle, a center, and a wide receiver that make everybody go, ah. Yeah. I mean, that's really what you need here. I mean, everything else is what cherry on the top. I mean, if you can find a slot corner or something like that, that's great. But for the most part, your center, your right / I mean, you can kind of keep Broderick on the right if you get an amazing left, tackle, which I don't think the Steelers are going to be in position for. But you got yourself your right tackle, your center, and a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds. And these are players that we all know. These are household names. Yeah. And I think that we were in for a really good year, in my opinion. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. No, I hear you, dude. Steel 43, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, look, it's different. It's a different vibe. It's a different feeling. It feels refreshing to me. They really cut dead weight that needed to be cut last year. Going to last year, to me, there was just still that level of uncertainty, especially with your quarterback, especially with some of your offense. I liked a couple things they did in the offseason, but they know it wasn't enough. They cut dead weight. They were pretty aggressive. Concepts, what's up, man? No, it's all good, man. It's all good. We're going to be wrapping up here soon, but you can always catch the replay if you want to, man. Thanks for your support. Going to this year, you have more clarity at quarterback, especially with certain levels of what to expect. You have Arthur Smith now. You have an offensive line that really the pieces they have there did well and is encouraging. Need to figure out center, right tackle. We know that. Wide receiver, some corner could use some help there. And teams, every team has holes. Every team has holes after the season, before the season, during the season. It's just the reality. You're not going to be able to clean up every single hole. Teams have injuries. Guys struggle. That's just how it goes. So the Steelers have some holes left to fill through their offseason, through their draft. But they're still going to have holes as the season goes on, just like every other team does. That's just the reality.
Right.
But if they can get some competent quarterback play, which I'm more confident in for sure than what they previously had. There's talent there on offense. I'm not worried about their wide receiver. I like what they added defensively. They got younger defensively too. There's definitely optimism. I think every Steeler fan should be excited, should feel good about where they're at, should feel pretty confident about them going forward. And it just feels like kind of a new lease on life with just kind of really what they've done this offseason, dude. Like they completely revamped the quarterback room.
Mm-hmm.
They never did crap like that. But now, like, it just seems like that there's more freedom. There's more flexibility in this organization, at least coming out of this offseason too. Very confident Omar Khan with what he's done. So yeah, I'm excited too. I think that there's a lot to look forward to. Long as they're healthy, just like every other team, right? I think that they should be in the mix, like with the rest of them, to be honest. So I'm more excited about them for sure this year than I was last year. Last year was just, you were still in a spot last year of like, you just had to wait and see, dude, because you just didn't know how Kenny was going to do last year. Obviously we had the answers to that. This year there's just more, I feel like, level of, you kind of know what you're going to get more than you got last year. There's more of a higher level of expectation, in my opinion, this year than last year. And I feel pretty confident with where they're at. So we'll see what happens. IoT Steelers, I'm still holding out hope. Yeah, Concepts, I said that earlier, man. Yeah, let's hope so. If they pull out a draft day trade. Charles, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. What do you think we'll do about our third quarterback? I would love to get Joe Milton. Well, they did sign Kyle Allen. They did sign Kyle Allen last week or 2 weeks ago, who was with the Buffalo Bills. He's probably sitting there at the third quarterback. They'll probably bring somebody in after the draft as well to fill out that room. Joe Milton, yeah, there's some untapped potential there for a guy like him too. We'll see what round he goes in. But yeah, Daniel, anything else? I mean, I've kind of really covered the basis of some of the options going in the draft. Talked about some of the moves, maybe some more moves they decide to do. Kind of really how we feel they're sitting. Think we're pretty on the same page with everything.
Yeah. I mean, if the Steelers end up getting Joe Milton in like the 5th or 6th, then the Steelers have a quarterback for every situation. They can they have their quarterback for accuracy, they got their quarterback to run, and they got a quarterback to throw a Hail Mary from the goal line.
Yeah.
So
yeah, every situation possible.
Every situation's covered. I'd like the potential with Joe Milton. I think that he has
he's an interesting name.
Crazy arm talent. Now, can he control it? Can he read defenses and do those type of things? Well, we'll see. He's a guy that definitely would probably, he's coming in raw. So he's definitely a guy that would have to require some development, sitting behind Justin Fields and Russell Wilson for a year or 2, maybe even 3, probably do the guy some good. And, if he develops into that guy with that talent that he has with that arm, I mean, he could be a scary dude to play up against.
Yeah.
He's got the speed, he's got the strength, the arm. Let's see if he's got it up above the shoulders, and if he's able to do it against some elite talent.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely makes for some good conversation. As I said, I feel like their draft this year is in a place of unpredictability. There's some things that you could probably lean toward more than the other for their draft in the first round, 2 rounds. But still, I think it's unpredictable. I think there's a variety of directions that they could go. So we'll see, guys. We'll see. But we appreciate each and every one of you who has come into the chat today, who has put your own thoughts, your own opinions, comments, questions out there. Good to see each and every one of you every single week. For those who are new, we appreciate you supporting. We appreciate you tuning in. You guys can follow me on my channel right here at In Hindsight. You guys can follow Daniel's channel at State of the Steelers, where we flip-flop back and forth on this Unofficial Steelers podcast, where Daniel puts out Steeler content. I put out Steeler content. I also like to put out some other content as well, aside from just the Steelers too, because I kind of like talking about other stuff as well. So you guys can follow him over there. Follow me over here. We will be back one of these weeks before the draft. The draft is April 25th. So we'll see. You guys will see if we have a show planned out for next week or not. If not, definitely the following going to the draft. So we'll see what happens. So make sure you guys are subscribed and hit the notification, guys, so you get the notifications when we go live, and then you guys will know. Ron, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. We're actually ending here, but if you want to go back and rewatch it, you can, bro. How about the Buccos? Yeah, man. Very exciting. I think there's a level of excitement for them this year. So hopefully they can stay consistent throughout the season. They only need to win 5 more games than they won last year, and they'll be in playoff talk. Pretty simple as that. But they got talent. We'll see when Skeens comes up, man. So very exciting. But other than that, guys, Daniel and I are going to head out of here. Thank you guys for your support. We will be back before the draft and give our official thoughts and get your guys' thoughts on the draft as we are on our way there. Take care, guys.